There's only one way to kill it. We must fight together.
Here we go. What happens if we survive?
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And my name's John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. And welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Predator, Killer of Killers. 3 of the fiercest warriors in human history become prey to the ultimate killer of killers. John, 2024-2025, looking pretty good for the Predator and the Alien franchise. You know, a lot of people can say a lot of things about Disney, but it seems like they've decided to invest at least a little bit of time and energy into these amazing sci-fi series, some of my personal favorites of all time. And, you know, getting a project like Predator, Killer of Killers, I never thought it would have happened, and I'm super excited it did, because overall, minus a few shortcomings here and there, I had a really good time with this. It was really fun to see the Predator and, you know, all its glory in these, like, 3 individual stories that kind of all tie together. Good time, great project. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was nice to have something that probably doesn't have the time investment of a full feature-length live-action movie, but done by the director of Prey, which came out not too long ago, which was the most recent entry still, right? In the Predator
Prey was
series.
Amazing. Yeah.
And was very good, right?
Yes.
And is actually referenced in this film briefly. But, you know, it doesn't detract from what this is, which is 3 kind of standalone stories that tie together in the end.
Right, and I got a lot of vibes from. Do you remember the Animatrix? Remember when they made that series?
Yes.
And they made all those stories. That's kind of like if anyone was wondering, like, what's the closest thing I think you can compare this to? That probably would be what it is. This is like the Animatrix for Predator, right? It's continuing the story. It's giving you these interesting side stories. And the first positive I really have about this. This is just an amazing idea, and I'm really surprised no one kind of came up with this sooner. Predator, if you've paid any kind of attention to like the history of the Predator and stuff like that, through all the movies since the inception to Alien versus Predator and all that craziness, it was a Predator 2, Concrete Jungle, and whatever. You know, there's always been this really interesting history of the Predator throughout the ages. Like they've said the Predators have been coming to Earth since the inception of the planet. And it's really cool to see, especially in this animated feature in particular, they picked 3 of the most interesting time periods I think that they could have done and made some kick-ass stories, you know, regardless of what you want to say about how they tie it all together, which again, that's my big complaint, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the 3 stories that we have here, man, they're awesome. We literally have a Viking story, a samurai story, and a World War II one. And I couldn't have honestly thought of any better options I would have picked to tell these stories.
Yeah, they're iconic and quickly recognizable examples of popular, you know, settings for action, right? Vikings, obviously, definitely a sort of feudal Japan, and then World War II. People are into all those things. So they picked well when they were deciding where they were going to set these 3 side stories.
Yeah, and what would you say is like, so out of the 3, which one do you think was your favorite out of at least the 3 stories that we were given?
Out of the 3, I think my favorite would be the second, which I think was called Sword and was set in feudal Japan. The thing that was consistent and story, there's definitely, they give you something for each of these characters. They introduce the character, they show you their background, their motivation, how they became one of the greatest fighters of their time, and then there's a fight. That's pretty much the formula for each segment.
And the good thing is, I just want to throw in, is it's done quickly, because I feel like that would have been such a big problem if each of these, because I think you can make an argument almost that each of the 3 stories here, I keep saying 3, but technically it's 4, but at least for discussion, the 3 main stories, in my opinion here, there's an argument that they could have been their own movie, but at the same time, seeing it done so concise and well quickly. I think they did a really great job. Just there was enough information for me to get invested, see what the point is, get right to the action, fighting the predator, and then resolving it. It was like just enough. And honestly, after really like thinking about it, I think a little more time would have been too much for me. I don't know if I would have had such a good time with it if it was the case being extended.
They did enough, and enough is the right amount, right? Yes. You don't when your goal is to basically get people to a point where you care about what happens when they fight a predator and then showing them fight a predator, you don't want to have over much going on prior to that fight scene. And I think that's probably why I liked the second segment the most, is that I found the fight scene the most engaging, because the predators in each scene or each setting kind of mirror or reflect a bit of the fighting style elements of the person that they're fighting. And it was just very interesting to see a sort of ninja character fight against sort of a ninja predator.
Right. And again, I think it's the Dan Trachtenberg, who's also the director of Prey. This was a side project he had worked on while he's actually making the new Predator, Badlands. I think he took the formula that he created in Prey and just shortened it and executed it much faster. And it worked here because, again, if I'm thinking about Prey from what I remember, it was essentially the same thing. There wasn't a super ton of backstory. You were given like just enough, and then they're like, okay, you know enough about this character to care. Let's go fight a predator. And that's what they did here, like you said. And I think
context and a little historical flavor to it, and then you got to the action.
Right. And I would say I would agree with you. I think the second story, as far as the samurai story, is by far, maybe it's just personal taste or whatever, but I do enjoy the second one, I think, the most. I think it had the most badass action and the most just, I don't know, I wouldn't say most heartfelt story, but I just like a deeper story about these two brothers that they had this earlier conflict with each other, and then the one was going back to get revenge on him, and the predator kind of just jumps in and they start fighting again, and they have to like find each other again. And I thought there was something kind of nice and beautiful about that whole story, but they all kind of have that, right? The first story about the Viking, they go on this raid, and then the predator shows up and pretty much kills everybody the Viking knows, and then her son is kind of MIA for a while, and that she has to fight the predator and then overcome that obstacle. And then the third story is probably the most different out of the three. It's really just this an unlikely hero, right? He has to use his brain instead of his brawn like the other two in these battles and to defeat the predator. And that was probably the strangest one out of the three stories. Maybe the most suspense of disbelief is needed for that one. Just a little bit.
Because when I think the problem that you encounter with that one after the other two is that you're now in an era of technology.
Yeah.
And how believable is it that somebody, even if they're the most skilled or, excellent at using the technology of the era, how are they going to stack up against a spacefaring technology? It really just requires, like you said, suspension of disbelief.
And the other two stories, like you have this when they're fighting in the Viking era, when he's fighting, he just has like this concussion blast kind of cannon. And it's not like it's not like lasers or missiles or anything like that. So it's kind of realistic. They have these big weapons and they're fighting him. Second one, he's practically his own ninja / samurai. He's using stealth and he's attacking and stuff like that. Very cool. And then, like you said, it's in World War II, and we're using fighter planes to fight a missile-toting, laser shooting predator in the sky. Again, I have to give it points though, just because it's so goddamn original. I think it's cool. It's something different that we haven't seen at all in the Predator franchise since the normal predator hunting you on the ground and in the jungle, or the concrete jungle, if you will, all those kind of stories. This one was the most unique and kind of accurate to history if you really want to have that. It has that just enough flavor, right? Because you would have stuff like that happen in the sky. So there is an argument to say that,
that's true.
There were weird things would happen up there. If you ask pilots all the time throughout history, there were things that couldn't be explained about planes getting shot down or whatever. Seeing strange things in the sky, you could get away with that. Sure, why not, right?
And the positive of the big disparity in technological level is that, just like in the original Predator, when Arnold Schwarzenegger had to like cover himself in mud and kind of figure his way out of a situation that he was at a disadvantage, the main character of this one really has to think of a couple different creative ways to win this fight, which is definitely more involved than in the first two. Right.
And then the ending is, I kind of popped for the ending of that one. I thought it was just really cool. The idea, again, I don't know how much sense it actually made, especially with the physics that were involved with it, but very cool. Again, it's still the same. I thought it was really fun, really adventurous. And you know what? If you had stopped right there, John, I think I would have gave this a much higher score, and I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But then it goes somewhere different, and I don't know if you suspected this either, that they were going to tie these three stories together, because essentially what we're told here is that these are the backstories of these three characters who end up being in the same room and being escorted to this giant arena to fight another predator, the killer of killers, and they have to overcome obstacles by working together, and the usual, none of them speak the same language, so there's the language barrier, and they have to somehow work together to defeat the king of predators, if you will. That was a little too much for me, man. I gotta tell you, I don't think I wanted that. I don't know if I'm sure there are fans out there that enjoyed this, but for me, it didn't feel right to the Predator lore almost. I feel like I lost something there a little bit.
Well, I think that the misunderstandings between the characters were pretty well executed. Yes. It was fun to see them try to figure out, are we friends? Are we enemies? Okay, I guess we have to work together. We still don't speak the same language, any of us, right?
Right.
But the concept, like why they're there, doesn't really make sense, like you said, when you're looking at the Predator series, because it's never been a coliseum, you know. Now this is what you have to do. Typically, I believe in the prior, Predator outings, it's like either you win or you die, and that's kind of
right.
The
if
end
you beat
of it.
If you beat the Predator, congratulations, you're the killer of killers. You've succeeded, and they lost the hunt. It's over. There's an argument, I guess, right? I mean, in the first Predator, Dutch, the Predator self destructs because he's like a sore loser because he lost to Dutch and everything like that. But it didn't feel like that. That felt like a different scenario. This just feels like, oh, you beat the Predator. Here, we're gonna put you on ice, wait for a while, and then we're gonna throw you in an arena and hope you can beat the King Predator. I don't like that, man. I'll be honest with you. I feel like it takes away something from this sci-fi character that's survived such a generation, where it always felt like an honorable character, kind of like a Boba Fett or something like that, right? Just like this honorable, like, bad guy.
Not a good guy, but has rules.
Right, has rules and won't break those rules for whatever may be. And again, it is enjoyable. It's fine. And you feel the characters by the end, they have to overcome it, but they still don't even overcome it by the end of this. And it's creating this like offshoot into the universe. I guess Dan Trachtenberg, he wants to create, I guess, at this point, because we even get a flashback to this character from the main character from Prey, who's on ice, for something. And I think Dutch is kind of shown there, but they can't really show his face probably.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
but
there's a first pod where a guy's kind of like strung up like this, and you can tell it's like a big dude. So I'm assuming that's like supposed to be Arnold.
Yeah. Arnold is a pretty big dude, so I think there's a good chance you're right.
And then I don't want to see Arnold in live action do this, so if they can do it in animated and bring Dutch back with his voice, that would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
That would be the way to do it, rather than trying to de-age him.
This is fun. This is a fun idea, fun story. I just feel like it just loses. For me, it just lost a little bit of the plot, because again, if it was just those first three stories, honestly, I would have just taken a fourth original story involving the Predator, and that would have been cool for me. I don't think I needed this tie-in story for them to create. And again, maybe there must be a bigger picture involved, I'd have to assume, with Predator Badlands and stuff like that, because Badlands seems like it's tying in Alien with some of the robots and stuff like that, the synthetics, because the eyes they showed had a Whaling Corp and stuff like that. So he's obviously building a universe, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about it. I guess I didn't want it, I guess is what I could say.
I think having that ending that was like a culmination of the other three stories is like trying to have a resolution to all of this, or something, some kind of ending, even though it really wasn't an ending,
Right.
they
it's a beginning more than it is an ending.
It's a beginning more than an ending, but it maybe for some viewers, they thought that it would feel like it wasn't building towards anything, that it's like, okay, I saw my 3 short films and now it's over. But on the other hand, I think that those short films did a good enough job of justifying themselves by having unique setups and good little storylines that I wouldn't have been bothered if they had just done a fourth.
No, and this
along those lines.
Right, and this isn't made for casual fans, if we're going to be honest. This is made for the sci-fi Predator fans that are out there. This is what this is made for. So you're not really looking to, incorporate new fans into this expanding universe. And most people that go to watch the live action Predator movies, they're not watching Killer of Killers. Let's be honest. You know, they're not into that. Most casual fans aren't going to be like, "Oh, did you watch that animated project where they explained the whole backstory of the Predator?" No one watched that. Let's be honest here. It's the same with the Animatrix, and the Animatrix is one of my favorite like animated tie-in movie projects because it did so much to explain things in the world where it's like, that's so cool. Why wasn't that in the movie? Especially like the history of robots in that one is by far one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen, and I still remember to this day as being a piece of work. But Predator Killer of Killers I think is great. The animation, we didn't really touch too much on that, but animation was I think pretty decent as well too, even though it was a little janky at times, especially when there was more action going on in especially that third part and the last part. It definitely got a little the budget was showing a little bit, but what are you going to do? It's a streaming show. I don't know how much more you could have asked. Also, last side note, which I thought was super fun, Michael Biehn is the voice actor in this show. He plays an older pilot in the third movie, or the third session. He's the only actor that is in Aliens as Corporal Hicks, and is also in The Terminator as Kyle Reese. So he's now in all three of the main sci-fi projects. He was also
he checked the box.
He was also in
he
the
probably
Abyss.
was calling them to ask if he could be in it.
Yeah, he showed up in that, and I always think that's super cool when you have like that one actor that can show up in all the different projects. So,
sure.
Did it add anything? Probably not, but I thought
Just
it was super
an
fun.
Easter egg for the fans. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Man, OG Kyle Reese and Corporal Hicks in the same movie. I love that, man. I'm gonna gush for that for days. But I think we've talked enough about Predator. Let's get the final score here. I'm gonna go ahead and give Predator Killer of Killers a 7.4 out of 10. Had a really good time with it, man. I really did enjoy it. Again, I think the animation was really sufficient, but what's really cool here is those three stories. Those three stories are absolutely phenomenal. How they tie in together, I could take it or leave it, honestly. I would actually, if I were to watch this again, I could probably just watch those first three stories and probably just turn it off and not really continue the rest of it and not have lost anything and still enjoyed my time, because those three stories is what I'm here for. Seeing the Predator challenging humanity in its most savage of ways and finding a way to outsmart them, out physical them, whatever they have to do. I really like those stories, and that's what I'm here for. But you could do a lot worse. I think Predator Killer of Killers, if you have a chance and you're a Predator fan, sci-fi fan, you're going to have a good time with it, even if you think the ending will be a little lackluster. Those three stories I think are really going to bring a lot of people in. John, what do you think on this one?
My score is pretty close to yours. I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 is how I'm feeling today. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I didn't have low expectations. I didn't have high expectations. I kind of just went into it figuring, this is something interesting to watch. And I was quite entertained, and it did excite me somewhat for the upcoming project. So if it couldn't hope to do a whole lot more than that, I think it was successful in what I aimed to do.
Right, exactly. Again, I think if you're already a Predator fan, you're not going to be disappointed that way. I think, if you're a true lore gore hound, maybe you'll be a little bit disappointed with how they're taking the franchise. But again, not getting more Predator, more Alien stuff, it's awesome. We really do like to see it. There's a reason these franchises have survived, the sci-fi for so long and have still been in society and whatnot. And it goes to prove it here. But what I need to know in the comments down below is, what did you think of Predator Killer of Killers? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Did you like the eras that they selected? What era would you have picked if you were to make your own kind of Predator story? Is there another time period? John, you got another time peririd?
World War One could have been interesting in the trenches.
World War One in the trenches. All right.
Something to think about. Dan, take that one, Dan.
I don't. You know what? Maybe like the Revolutionary War. Imagine something crazy like that. Something wild, like a bayonet, like having to fight the Predator.
That would be pretty wild. Yeah, but that's what's fun about the series is now that it's expanded into this scope, you can imagine those things. It's just fun.
Yeah, any time period is really open, and you can see the Predator fight anybody. You can watch him fight Danny Glover again if you really wanted to. Why not, right? Because that worked so well the first time, which I thought there is a fun reference. If you've seen Predator 2, there's a gun that's I'm not going to go too into, I guess that's kind of spoiler. So there's a gun that shows up, and I don't know how much logic it makes as far as like where the timeline is in the series, but it's kind of cool just to see. It's like, oh, I know that reference. I know that guy. I know that reference. But again, I think you guys will have a good time. Make sure you check it out, but comment down in the section below. But thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. That guy's John. We're your real movie guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you in the next one.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.